Hi, welcome to this part of my review featuring the Eventide role-playing game. If you haven't seen the other parts of my review featuring this survival horror post-apocalypse experience that you can play with other people or by yourself, please check out the playlist in the description below. This time we are going to talk about gear and crafting, but also experience points and game mastery. Let's start with resources. The ability to make new useful items from resources you and your team scavenge from your surroundings can mean the difference between living and dying. In Eventide, this skill set is known as crafting. There are 5 resources that wanderers can gather during their adventures to use in crafting, namely wood, metal, stone, fiber, and chemical. During a game session, the players may attempt to search an area for resources. This is salvaging. Or the game master may simply tell them that they find some resources which they can collect and take with them if they wish. There is also a random resource table which can assist the game master in randomly generating resource holes on the fly. If characters have access to the appropriate tools, that is, hatchets, pickaxes, etc., then they can also mine resources such as stone, metal, or wood from the environment. The process for mining resources is detailed later on. These resources can be tracked on the player's individual character sheets and can also be tracked on the tribe sheet if the group is using it. The tribe sheet is a useful way of tracking shared resources stored in the group's collective stockpile. Items that can be crafted are listed in the crafting recipes table in the form of a crafting recipe. Each crafting recipe contains information related to the name of the item, the crafting difficulty, the materials, that is, wood, metal, stone, that is the amount of wood required by the recipe, the amount of metal required by the recipe, etc. There's also details on crafting time, selling price, and you also have retail price, how many shards it would cost the players to buy that item from a trader. There's also the workbench requisites, which is basically if crafting a particular item requires a workbench. Now, when it comes to crafting, when a character wants to craft a new item, they first spend the listed resources and then make a crafting test, which is survival plus crafting. If the test is successful, then they have created the item they were trying to craft and can add it to their inventory. If a crafting test is unsuccessful, then they fail to create the item, and the resources they used in their attempt are spent as well. When it comes to workbenches, more complex crafting recipes require access to a workbench. Workbenches are wooden surfaces containing some basic tools, which allow characters to attempt those more sophisticated crafting recipes. When it comes to salvaging resources, when a character attempts to search an area for resources, or they happen to stumble across a stockpile, the game master either tells them exactly what they come across or they roll on the salvage haul table, in conjunction with the random resource table, to generate a haul of random resources for the characters. To perform a salvage roll, first the game master decides whether there is a likelihood of a low, average, or high yield of resources. Then they roll 1d6 and check the result in the corresponding column on the salvage haul table. The value of the number is how many of a random resource they obtain, and the number of values represent potentially different resources that can be salvaged. The game master then rolls on the random resource table, a number of times equal to how many separate values are listed on the salvage haul table, and assigns that many of the resulting resources to the player. It is possible to roll the same random resource multiple times. This just means the players get multiple hauls of the same resource. Now, concerning mining resources, when a character attempts to mine for a particular resource, wood, metal, etc., they need to use the correct tool for the job. Mining wood from trees requires a hatchet, while mining metal or stone requires a pickaxe. These tools can be made from stone, which are of average quality, or metal, which would be higher quality. If the game master decides that the area contains a mineable resource, they can ask the player to make a mining roll. Fiber and chemical resources cannot be mined, only found or salvaged. To make a mining roll, the player rolls a couple of 6-sided dice. If they are using a stone tool, they discard the highest result. If the player is using a metal tool, they discard the lowest result. The final result is the amount of the particular resource that the player gains from their mining activity, and they add that to their character sheet. Once a character has mined a particular area, it is considered spent. Players cannot continuously mine the same tree or patch of rock or ore over and over again. If players want to mine again, they will need to move and find a new area to do it in. You have a list of different crafting recipes to create antidotes, arrows, assault rifles, flamethrowers, medicine, rockets, shovels, stone hammers, wooden huts. Anything that you can think of in a post-apocalypse setting can be found here. Or you could use this information to come up with your own objects or contraptions or artifacts. Now let's talk about experience points. Throughout the game, players will accumulate experience points. These points represent the character's potential to grow and improve in their skills, and can also be spent to reroll failed dice rolls. Experience points are handed out by the Game Master. This can be done as rapidly or as slowly as the Game Master decides, based on how quickly or slowly you want the characters to advance and improve in their skill. An average game session should aim to give around 1 experience point per player per session. If you plan on playing a shorter campaign or a one-shot, this number can be increased to speed up the rate of improvement. Experience points can be distributed for a number of reasons, perhaps by defeating a powerful foe, because of impressive role-playing, perhaps through creative problem-solving, or maybe by achieving a critical success. When it comes to spending experience points, they can be spent in 2 ways. A player can spend an experience point to either attempt an improvement or reroll a failed result. When it comes to improvement, anytime a character fails at a test, they mark the circle next to the associated skill. This is called an advancement mark. It represents the potential for characters to learn from their mistakes on their adventures. Players can, at any time, spend an experience point to attempt to improve any skill that has an advancement mark. To do this, players spend the experience points and roll a single 6-sided die. If they roll higher than the current number of skill points, then they have succeeded at improving that skill, and may add an additional skill point to it. If they roll equal to or lower than the number of skill points they have in the skill, then the improvement fails and they don't gain any additional skill points. In either case, the advancement mark is erased and gameplay continues. When it comes to rerolling a failed result, players may also spend an experience point to reroll a failed dice pool. They must spend the experience point and reroll all the failed results from their rolled dice pool, keeping any previously rolled successes. Players may only perform this action once per test. Let's talk about the Game Master's role. As the Game Master, it is your job to create a vivid and engaging narrative for your players to absorb themselves in. There is no absolute right or wrong way to do this, but collected in this chapter are a few guidelines that should help new Game Masters find their fit. This information may also be worthwhile for experienced Game Masters to take a look at as well. The Game Master responsibilities include describing the world, playing the non-player characters, deciding when to call for a roll, interpreting the dice, and awarding experience. As the Game Master, you will be the director of the game session, and it is your job to describe to the players what their characters see and hear. Once the players describe what their characters are going to attempt, it is up to the Game Master to describe what happens next. The setting of Eventide is quite deadly, so it's in your best interest to empower the players to attempt something as they try to solve different problems, confront different situations and enemies, because they will die if they are not careful. Players should have agency. They should be invested in the game, attempting to do all sorts of things with the game world, with the objects, with the non-player characters and locations. Anything that comes from those interactions will be decided by the intelligent use of skills, of tools, of resources, and sometimes it will be decided by the luck of the dice. Thank you for watching this part of the review. In the next part we are going to start talking about the game world, the setting of Eventide. I really like how crafting your own weapons, tools, gear is an integral part of the system. It feels very realistic considering the survival horror nature of the game. I also like the way experience points are handled, how you feel that the character is learning from the mistakes, not just of the successes or triumphs. I also like the information in the game mastery section. It's going to be very useful for both beginning game masters and experienced game masters. There are some fundamental points there that you should always keep in mind when running sessions. Thank you for watching this part of the review. If you have any comments or questions, please let me know. And thank you so much to those of you that have been supporting the channel by sending drive-thru RPG gift certificates. If anyone else wants to further support the channel, the information on how to do that will be in the description below. Once again, thank you and see you later.